All right, let's get this thing going. This is the Chef Infra client triage for April 13th. We're going to look at Chef client. We're going to look at maybe Ojai or Pete. And we'll look at anything else people want to look at. So I'm going to share off my browser here, and then we can look at what's left to look at. Share. All right. Pull up Chef here. You want to do issues or PRs? Anybody have a preference? PRs it is.
You can look at issues, but I think we've been doing issues.
I think we're pretty good on the issues. There's a few new ones. There's one that came in for you. What specifically?
Yeah, no, that was I did that this morning.
The reporting one?
Probably recently updated.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna look at. Oh.
Yeah, recently updated.
All right. I haven't looked at this locale one since they updated it. It was not idempotent before.
Setting locale on Windows.
This is one of the issues I requested. There's no reason that we can't support this on Windows. Right now, it only supports Debian systems, but there's a PowerShell commandlet for it, so we might as well.
The one thing you might have fun with there is all your other things that get based on the text being in English at the end.
Oh yeah, I don't know if it would necessarily be a good idea to change the locale, but you could do it. Yeah, thankfully, like we've taken a lot of that stuff out. We used to have a lot of really bad parsing, particularly like Windows, the way Windows feature used to work, and some things that would like assume flags. Thankfully, as we move that stuff to PowerShell, like a lot of that works. But there's even like, yeah, what was it? I'm not sure if it was in Server Manager, if it was in the other Windows feature one, but there's actually a flag in there that's like /English. So it'll like force all the responses, no matter what you've set the language to be in English, so that you can actually parse the data out. Which is
every part of the OS
terrible.
That.
It's super terrible that there's like English flags on the command line. Yeah, we have historically gotten a lot of issues. Most people run their systems in English. We get a lot of issues for people who are having problems with Chef running on Russian systems and running on French systems. Those seem to be the people who like to use native language. Yeah, we should make that work. I think we can, especially with stuff in PowerShell. This is probably better, but
yeah.
I would really like, the one thing I asked was that they actually load the state properly, but the resource was not loading the state properly before, so.
Yeah, to do load current value, you mean? Or,
yeah, I think that's what I actually asked for.
Yeah.
Somewhere around here. Yeah, load current value, and then we can converge if changed. I mean, this, like, that would work this way, but it'd be a lot better. We're not the best about doing that ourselves. I get the feeling that that changes how reporting works to automate, right, Lamont? Like actually having a real before and after state.
Yes. So now, in particular, in Chef 16, if you do load current value correctly, you get a correct after state, which is not the new resource.
Okay.
So load current value is the way you should do things.
But what is, like, when we do reporting up to automate or to whatever with some handler or something, right? Like, what is the state change that we send? Do we send a before and after state?
Yeah, we always have sent a before and after state, but we've been abusing the new resource as the after state, the desired state.
Yeah.
As the after.
We just assume that what you set was what
right.
we did.
because we did it, so therefore
Yeah.
it should be in the state that you wanted. So we
And if
give
we-
values the after state. And that sort of works as a hack, but not really.
So like in the case of this cookbook where we're not actually loading, we have like I think we have a property for language, right? But we're not ever loading the state on that language. What goes to the reporting? Just
there's no current value, so you really don't get anything useful at all.
yeah, we should fix that.
So yeah, there's no load current value, there's no load current resource.
Yeah.
So you get no state, I believe. Your current resource will be nil.
That would be a good one to audit. And
I think you may get that your after state is your new resource. So you may get that, may get the.
But you would never see a proper transform. You would see that a transform happened, but you wouldn't know what you transformed from.
Yeah, you would see that it went to something and not necessarily that it came from anything.
Yeah. Okay. So we should try to be better about that.
So there should always be a load current value or load current resource and everything.
Okay. Was that what you were clicky in there?
Nope. You
Okay.
can go do that one.
I will respond to this one later because I need to give them an example of where we're doing it right, particularly where we're doing it right on Windows. And I think we have a few of those. Some of those newer, like the firewall resource and stuff, use convert just changed. But that'll be nice. We'll get locale support for somebody who wants to risk it and change that. I think this one might actually be ready now. So the backstory on this world's oldest PR was we have this in-serve resource mess, and we're trying to remove all the last bits of support for SLES 11 because we don't support that because that's not a thing anymore. But we would like to still test that. So the logical thing to do was to see if we could make it work on SLES 15. And that is what this does. So they had to update some functional stuff. I guess the format changed for what these scripts even look like. Yeah, they updated that. Cool. So we have a new OpenSUSE check. And that just looks for modern OpenSUSE. That doesn't need to be there, but that's fine. It'll work. Yeah, cool. If this passed, we should just do it. The world's longest back and forth in a PR. Cool. Yeah, I'm just gonna merge this. There's a possibility that that is actually gonna fail once it hits build kite in the artifact verification, but we'll fix it then. It's fine. What do we got? This is 9649 for everybody. Oh yeah, this is the one that needs to get updated based on the response out. We should not be messing with timeouts. Yeah, so that's not ready. I'll label that. I backported your issue, Lamont, and I wanted to ask you that we do want to bring this particular bootstrap fix back to Chef 15, right?
Wait, what? Fix knife bootstrap CLI option.
The one that gets rid of the procs. I know there's more to do here, but
oh yeah, just this little one.
This is good to take in just as is before.
Yeah, this is only for the bootstrap version.
Yep.
Yeah, that one can get backported.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
What failed here? Functional windows. Surprise, surprise. All right, cool. I think we're probably gonna end up with a 15.10 pretty soon, actually. But just because there's going to be a bunch of nice fixes there. I merged some other stuff in, and I bumped it to 15.10, so that's going to start that whole process. Fix continuous installation of same package version. Well, that's going to need a test. This is one for you, Amat.
Wait, what?
9653 is a fix for DNF.
To the fucking package superclass? Does that blow up fucking everything?
Maybe. Yep.
Yeah, go figure.
What is it? What does this blow up? One thing.
Right. Multi-install, installing multi-package installs a specified version. Some are out of date. Yeah. Good job. No, you can't do that. Like, you just can't wade into the package superclass and be like, this little simple fix does everything. No, it doesn't. So, yeah.
Wait, what is that?
I suspect that I fixed this in the Chef 16 changes, but I have not gone through and tracked it down.
Yeah.
So
is it, this is just notifying even no matter what is the issue that this person is seeing?
yeah, it's not behaving idempotently. It's reinstalling it over and over again. So
Wait.
I think that's due to a way there's a comparison, and you have to look at specifically how it's being called, because they're giving a certain amount of the version. So it's there's some what is it? So it's the EVR. It's like an EVR being compared to an EVRA and failing because it wasn't given the arch. So if you include the arch in the version, then the Evra to Evra comparison succeeds and it will be idempotent. So I believe that got fixed, but like, yeah, it blew up everything.
Will those fixes be backported to 15 for
They-
DNF?
Backported if they are proven to be stable after 16 bakes for a bit.
Okay.
They're
cool.
always a
Like,
little nerve-wracking just because like package installs are complex in Chef, but like package installs are complex, which is why they're complex in Chef. So every time we change something there, somebody is like, oh, this edge case is broken. It's also possible that like the classic one that Lamont brings up of like, there's a lot of people that have coded to behaviors of Chef that may or may not be correct. So
Yeah,
I'll see if I can test this on 16 on my end, because I have a use case where I had to work around this.
I mean, that is actually one risk, which is that the upgrade of the DNF package provider could be correct.
Yeah.
But may also be breaking, which means that I would go, no, we are not backporting that. It is correct. It will go into 16. It will not go into 15.
And those are like debates we've had where we're like, okay, like bug fixes
Like,
bug fixes are often breaking because sometimes like we missed the check or we weren't doing anything we should have been doing, and doing the right thing now like changes the behavior. Like, do you consider that a breaking change to do the right thing? Or
yeah, somebody figured out a workaround. A lot of people figured out a workaround, game the system, and then it's like, well, I fixed it the right way though. So now it's a very breaking change.
I hope we can backport this one because like
So like the issue I just brought up, like the workaround works fine, right? So that wouldn't block backporting.
All right. Do we have like a package or a... Red hat like. There we go. Yeah, let's see. Where were we? The release notes doesn't matter. This one got updated. We need to just figure out. This is more of a working with the inspect folks to make sure they're okay with the train side of this. But I'm much happier with this.
Yeah, I think I already approved this or something.
Yeah. Just that, like, the reason this broke was because a change was made to train and merged by the inspect folks without thinking about the chef impacts of it.
Yep.
So I don't want to like swing the pendulum back and do the reverse of it and be like, haha, now I broke inspect. So I want to make sure that everyone agrees before we change how sudo works.
Has train got a test to cover both use cases? So if somebody tries to be clever in future, they can tell to do one by the CI system.
Like what went into train had a test. The problem was like it was actually a breaking change. It changed the behavior of how we did sudo prompts and how we did the retries and all that fun stuff. And like that was a total breaking change. That changed the API basically of train. What we don't have, and it's something that we're aware of, and I think there's a desire to fix that, is like I don't have the ability for someone to make a change to train, open a PR, and that to test the things that would impact. And that's like the holy grail of what people want for tests, right? But like I can't say when a person goes and changes that API of how like TTY sudo crib stuff works, that would like test bootstrapping in Chef, and that would test inspec from a node onto another node, which is what this was impacting. And it was a change they made that like it broke FreeBSD, it broke like Solaris, it broke all kinds of stuff. And
so it's worse than that because we don't have functional testing for Knife Bootstrap at all.
Yeah.
So if we had functional testing for Knife Bootstrap in the Chef repo, then we could run that. We could do the same tricks that we use to do Chef spec tests against Chef, right?
Yeah.
Do external tests against Chef. We could do that against inspec with the Chef client tests, but we don't have any coverage at all, period.
And I think we'll get to that. Like if you look at the work that is going on right now, we historically didn't have like any sort of testing like that around Chef's server, which was super problematic because setting up servers and going through those test cycles was super time consuming. They wanted to do a release. It was like 2 weeks of manual testing before that. We've got some really great work that Christopher Snap did to get like a Terraform environment set up where they can just spin up all the different scenarios like, oh, this is like FIPS clients and this is, you know, ES and this is Solar and this is like all the different ways you can set up your Chef server. I suspect that work is coming to a close pretty soon, and I want that same kind of thing on Chef so that when we open a PR, we can potentially have it go through the kind of test where it would be like, I need to test bootstraps, right? I need to have this knife connect to another server, but that requires that I like spin up another server to actually try to bootstrap, which is going to require like a big Terraform scenario to happen. Right now, like all we test is just like some stuff in Docker, which is not enough.
So should, as an action, there be a high-level ticket to say it would be beneficial to have tests that cover these scenarios, even if that's all the ticket says, so at least it's down on paperwork somewhere.
I think there is one that's like, we need real integration testing.
Okay, cool. That's fine, mate. I didn't know. It was just
I'm pretty sure that, I mean, it might be from 7 years ago, but like, this is not sadly, this is not a new issue in Chef. Our testing has gotten better over time, but it's still missing that last step, which is why you see constant regressions on bootstrap stuff, because a lot of that is like, we have our offshore team do manual validation on it, and they spend 2 days trying to bootstrap systems, but manual validation is nothing compared to just a suite. They can run it, even if it takes an hour. I don't really care. Just bootstrap 50 different ways. Yeah. So hopefully we can get the other side of this done, and then we can merge this. Which hopefully fixes Bootstrap. And we can backport that as well. We'll be definitely backporting that. Do you want to look at yours, Lamont? Do you want to talk about it?
Oh, I mean, if anybody wants to know about it,
Big.
it is big. So there's the Mixlib CLI and there's Mixlib config, right? And there is inside of the Mixlib config for the Chef client, there is the Chef config knife subhash or config context. And those have been merged so that you historically always been merged so that you can either specify something in the config or on the command line. And there's a whole issue with the precedence levels of all of that, which is just a little ways down from this code. And
Yeah, it actually spells it out right here.
Yep. So there was an issue with that where if you had a config option which had no CLI option, that those config options were not showing up in the config hash. So this will fix it, and I'm planning on backporting that to Chef 15. That will make it so that the config hash has all of the state that anybody needs. So then what that means is that you can go through and all of those stupid procs in all of the knife CLI options go away. And anytime a knife subcommand is accessing Chef config knife directly, or this stupid accessor that got merged into the base class of knife bootstrap called knife config, all of those accesses are then buggy and should be removed. So that was what the prior PR was doing, was removing the access through the Chef config knife hash directly. So that the knife bootstrapper for the bootstrap version was never looking at the CLI. So went in and fixed that.
Lamont, what's the difference between settings and defaults in this context?
Settings and defaults.
Yeah, some of the words here
Yeah.
where I got a little confused about like where the overrides were.
Settings, config file settings, the actual set values, only the set values.
So like a thing I put in my config.
Right. So those are set values, not defaults.
Okay.
So if you don't have anything in your config file, you won't have anything in that hash.
Can we change that settings word to just be like aka thing a person puts in their config file?
I mean, that was the method that was always there. So
I just mean like this line right here. Just be like,
oh yeah, just a comment.
aka the thing in your config file.
Yes, comment can certainly be updated.
Like aka the default that comes from our app.
Right. So the base mixlib config though is actually both the defaults and the settings. It just the settings get overwritten and then it doesn't matter. So there's no way to get just the defaults out of mixlib config the way you can get the default config out of the CLI.
Oh, you just get like the result of the two mashes or hashes of however we're storing them.
You can either get the merged stuff out of mixlib config, or you can get only the set stuff out of mixlib config. It's difficult to get only the defaults out of mixlib config. We'd have to go through there and we'd have to actually write an additional command to go in there and do that.
I mean,
which could be done, but it's just like time's fucking ticking on 16. So, yeah.
would it be nice to see the like actual layering? Sure, but
Right.
that's
So the
probably
thing
less
is,
what we care about.
right. But so if there is something that's set there, it's going to get blown away by something further up the stack. So it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Or it'll just show up in the config file settings again in the right spot.
Yeah. And what this allows us to get rid of, like Lamont was saying, was the fact that we have these terrible procs sprinkled, and where people weren't sprinkling them, like maybe weren't getting the right behavior. You've seen people slowly be like, oh, this setting doesn't work the way you would expect it to work. I figured out I could work around it by just putting the proc in here. So you ended up with just one of those on every single option, particularly in Bootstrap. We put them on basically everything. So
Yeah.
no way. They're all over like all of our Knife plugins in the community. All the different like Knife EC2 and Knife Azure and all that. Like,
So if you go down to actually the Knife, oh yeah, you're on Knife Bootstrap.
yep.
There's Knife config. Oh no, that's a different thing.
This is the whole
Yeah, I was.
winner thing's a mess.
Yeah, that was just I named a thing the wrong thing, and so I'm fixing naming the argument. So it's going to be named config going forwards. Where is the shit with config value? You can see some of it here with config value going away.
Where that gets passed on all the plugins.
Yeah.
I think that's further down. That's like in supermarket.
Yeah, no, it was there. Config underscore value. You got it. So this config value helper method was designed to be used, as you see there with winrm auth method, with 2 or 3 arguments to do deprecation of an old config value. So it's supposed to be like deprecated config value, but it supports being passed a single method, and it will just return it, which is completely useless. It is identical to calling the config hash with the key. And that's just been cargo culted throughout everything. And then there's also in Knife plugins, there's usually conventionally this load config value thing, which has gotten horribly complicated to go through and see if it's in the config hash, if it's in the chef config, if it's in the, if there is a config value, a method will call that instead. And it's just like all that needs to just get deleted and everybody just go through the config hash. It's just the config hash. So,
yeah. And that's like the Knife Windows extra little helper that we sprinkled on top of the helper. And that one?
Yeah, the helper on top of the helper, but it's in everything. It's in Knife Azure, it's in Knife
yeah.
EC2.
Well, it's because the same people wrote all that stuff.
Right, it's just been copy pasted all over the place. And so it's just an abstraction on top of an abstraction on top of an abstraction, dealing, like working around the fact that nobody ever went back and fixed core chef.
Where is it? Helpers.
And it's amazing that like that chef config stuff, or the config value stuff got picked up so widely in just a year and splattered all over everything. So, but yeah. So anyway, everything is going to just be the config hash now. I mean, unless you actually need like the file cache path or whatever. It's not actually a Knife config. But
yeah, somewhere around, I don't even remember where it ended up, but we have a terrible helper in Windows land. It's in one of the bases. Names are hard. Yeah, I look forward to this. It does throw a ton of spam on all of our existing plugins, so our plugins do have to get updated, which does require this to get backported because of that config hash helper change thing. I don't know if I think there was an example of that change in our own stuff, right? It's not loading. There we go. Nope. Come on. The part that actually has to get changed in all the plugins. Do we have an? Is there an example of like what that change looks like?
No, because it's on my laptop. I'm in the middle of writing it for Knife Azure.
Okay.
It's complicated.
Where did you show me that?
What's that?
Where did I thought you showed me what it was going to look like at one point.
I don't think so.
Whatever. Yeah, there's some stuff that has to get changed, which means the various knife plugins will be supporting Chef 15.10 or later, because that has to get backported, which is fun.
Yeah.
But then we don't have screwed up knife config for the rest of them.
Yeah.
And if you look at our knife issues, this is like a solid, I would say, third of the issues that come up with knife was like configs never work the way you would expect them to work.
Yeah. So it is basically very much a little bit of a hard reset.
Yeah. You're definitely burning the config structure down a little here.
Yep. I tried to make it backwards compatible, but it will angrily spew deprecation warnings.
Yeah, and that's fine. We can just push out updates and throw a major release that requires 15.10 for everything.
Right.
Which is better than the alternative. All right. So this, I think, was just the update that said we should just remove it. Yeah. That's just the update that says we should remove it. I don't know if we looked at this. What was this for? Oh, this is Git. That's why.
Fix for exceptions raised in DRR. DRR is the thing that's supposed to raise exceptions. No, this hasn't been
really
updated. Try this.
This is
so.
That's the real name.
Does that mean we're caught up or what?
I don't know if this got updated after our comments. I think it.
I don't know if it did.
No, it hasn't. So we don't actually know.
Okay. So multi-package support for Pac-Man got updated 6 days ago. Was that updated after we commented? Actually, it looks like it was. You asked for it to be rebased.
Yeah, it hasn't been rebased. Yeah, did this have? It did have test. I might just pull that and see if we rebase it if it passes. That'd be a cool one to get into Chef 16. Because then we would literally, if I rate my tests for the Mac side, we would literally have multi-package finally on like all the major stuff.
Yeah. What is this doing? So it's lopping a huge amount out of load current resource, or?
You looking at that package one?
This is somewhat hard to follow. How do I switch it to the other mode? I never look at things in the other mode.
Yeah.
Where the hell is?
I think it just moves some of it into this other helper. Great. RGB data. Yeah, it moves the stuff into this down here.
So wait, def candidate version just goes away. Oh no, this all becomes load current resource. Becomes one massive load current resource. Right? Yeah. Candidate version is just candidate version. Whoa. That seems all right. So they're using that as a pre-processing step to populate candidate version. Packaging H2 package. I would have done that lazily, but whatever. And then that also populates the current resource versions. So current and candidate are being set up. The version arrays are getting populated.
Candidate version is just one of the methods from the base, right? From package. Is that one of the standard methods that we override in each?
Yeah, I believe so. That's your API, I think. Well, it's certainly better. Offhand, I haven't looked at package resources in so long that I can't.
DNF.
You need. No, I mean, like
non-DNF ones, because that's a whole different beast.
DNF, I didn't have to think about multi-package at all because it all started out multi-package, and then the stuff I was copying from Yum was all multi-package, so I never thought about multi-package. That was all like awful Python crap. And yeah.
All right, well, that'd be a cool one to get in. I don't know. That's like an added one. No one that is a paying customer is using Pacman, but it would be cool to support that properly. All right.
It's got, yeah, I would say this is fine.
So we're on that one.
We can deal with bug reports if they come in.
Yeah. I think that's all we have in terms of things that have been updated here. So I'm gonna switch over to issues. Oh, did you respond to that one then?
That one's easy.
All right. So I can close this then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna let him respond, but whatever.
He will page me again. He asked me about this in community Slack. I was like, you should open an issue so Lamont will read it because I have no idea why that's failing.
It's that wasn't the name.
That makes sense. No, I think about it.
I mean, if you just look at it, deprecated features used, and then there's clearly a hash print there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's like, yeah, so you're passing a hash where automate is expecting a string and it's blowing up.
All right. Yep. That's the guy's been helping us with all the Mac stuff. I'm like, please tell me how all this works. These were just yours. Systemd val. Yeah. This is one we're gonna have to write. Sadly, because Systemd is terrible. It turns out. Systemd analyze verify will verify your unit and will tell you if your unit is like terribly wrong, but it will just throw basically a warning that tells you that the time values are completely wrong, and all it's going to do when it loads the unit is just skip anything with a bad time value, which means if you're trying to set up like a timer and you're telling it to run every hour, it's just going to skip the part where you tell it to run every hour, and now it's a timer that doesn't do anything.
It returns success when it fails to parse?
Yes. So all we do is we run that command in our verifier and we go, oh, look, it exited 0. We're cool. I think we either have to look for a failure messaging. This is probably on standard error. I didn't look, but I would assume.
I bet if you Google this, other people have run into this.
Oh, I'm sure. This is like, Systemd is doing this wrong. But we have been like allowing people to basically put in bad unit files, which is going to burn us because like a lot of it, I'm okay with somebody putting a bad unit file because you can just run chef again and you can fix it. But if the unit file is chef, now this is the timer you're using to set up chef, you push this out to your fleet and you fat finger like the timer that you want it to run on, now your fleet is broken, which means we have to be a little more careful with the validation. But I don't know if we need like a special validator for ours that would be a little more likely to fail on that. That would actually parse out the return and look for bad timer values, because that's what I really care about. Or we need to basically write that terrible regex that's like, this is not a valid timer. Sadly, as Pete also discovered, there's a command in the systemd analyze for specifically validating time options. So you can be like, systemd analyze, I think it's time, and you can just give it like one HR. Oh, you scared me, bud. Hey, but that is not available in any modern version of systemd. Hey, you gotta go. Take that. Come on. Yeah, so that I think that's available in like Ubuntu 2004, but not even in 1804. That wasn't a thing, so, which is frustrating because that would get us exactly what we need. I could just like shell out on each of the properties for those times, but it doesn't work. So this is a 16.1 thing probably. I'll label that because that's like. I might pull a Tom and make a post 16 label so we can track cleanup-y things. This is the same thing. We gotta support cleaning up long-running ones. There's an option in systemd that does actually work for that. This one, we probably want to actually talk about how we're going to fix it in Chef, since we're not doing the other fix.
We're not fixing it in Chef. He's releasing a gem.
Is the guy actually going to release a gem?
Look at the bottom.
Oh, look at that. Do we still have to run the make, or is that just going to work?
No, because it's going to pull in the rate compiler as a dependency on Windows.
Okay.
And so then that will just become part of the gem file lock for our Windows Chef workstation and stuff. And we will pull in rate compiler and we'll have it, and then it will install, and then it'll be all good.
What happens next year when 2.8 comes out, or 3?
No, but the rate compiler handles that.
Oh, because rate compilers. I see what you mean. We didn't just. I saw that we added just the newer versions, but we're actually making. It's actually properly running rate compiler.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we don't have to do. We can close this then.
I mean, somebody should go and test that RC candidate for the guy and get back to him or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to track that here, if you want to do that in workstation.
Yeah.
Like, my inclination is that it should get closed here. Workstation team should test that. If it works, then we pick it up when he does the release of 1.10.
Okay. Well, let's see about that. This one came in and I wasn't entirely sure about it. This seems like a interesting use case. Like creating repo files that aren't in the repos directory.
I would say low priority.
I mean, I think it's just another directive.
Sustaining.
Our Yum repository resource does not have all the modern directives. Like we are definitely missing a few, and that's just not the end of the world. But if you want to add this and it wasn't terrible, I'd be all for it. But this seems like a pretty edge case. And I can send that.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, we're we're probably not going to get to it unless.
I'm not going to do this. If somebody in the community wants to do this, that's fine. But I don't think there's enough of a demand to spend time on that. That one, there's us. This one was an interesting one. I would love people's feedback on this. Pete and I went back and forth on this on Friday, and I just like got wrecked about this. So archive file sets file permissions, and it sets those file permissions on the directory, and we have to use file utils because we want to be able to use makedir _p to do a recursive directory creation, right?
Are you doing mode I?
Yeah, so this is all wrong. It's totally broken right now. But that mode has to be an octal form of mode. And that turns out to be very difficult to get things reliably into the octal form. I think the solution here is to actually force people to input it as a string, because when they input the mode as a string, we can reliably know what they meant by it.
We already have this solved someplace. It's in
I
the.
felt like we did, and I went and looked in.
It's in
That's why I was asking about like how this worked with the secure mixin, the securable. That seemed like where it was, and I was like, nope, that doesn't handle it correctly in securable.
It's done someplace.
I would love to see it, because like we were trying all these different things. There is no because like when you just type something as 0755, like Ruby under the hood is like, oh, it's just an integer, and it just converts it for you. There's no way to be like, did a person enter it as 055 or did they enter 755?
No, that. If it's 0755, then that should be octal. So the problem you run into is when somebody, 0755 is 493.
Yep.
The problem is 0755 to IDE is 755.
Yep.
So there is code which handles that somewhere in the file provider.
If we have something that does it ahead of time, sure. If not, like, if we tell them to enter it as a string, then we can know exactly what it needs to be.
It's probably in file access control or scan access control.
All right, I will look for that today, but I scratched my head for a while. I tried all these different methods. I was like, oh, well, we can determine what they meant based on this, and every single one of them had terrible edge cases. Yeah, it turns out to be a lot harder to get it to reliably do all the scenarios, and I had kind of like what the tests were gonna have to be written out, and tried inputting it into a few different helper methods I wrote. I think the solution is just for this resource is going to be making a string, and that'll be a break and change for 16. But because I think most people were probably doing the wrong thing. People do, they set 0755, and yeah, now it's octal.
Stop talking. There's file access control Unix, and there is a mode from resource. Lib, chef, file access control. Unix RB has a mode
Lib,
resource.
File access control, Unix.
Yeah. It's mode from resource. Good from resource, you're almost there. There. So res mode respond to octal, res mode octal, else res mode to I, and it with 007777. So I don't know that it's a particularly good idea to go mix in all of FAC into archive file, but that's what you'd have to do.
All right, I will play with this as a solution to that. If not a string, it's one or the other. But it's totally busted right now.
You might want to extract that as a standalone one-line mixin, or throw it into.
Yeah, I could just copy this.
No, you could even just throw it into. Just create a helper, throw it into DSL Universal or something like that, or throw it into Chef config or Chef helper.
I mean, if I even do, we need this in most things. All you're doing is taking whatever input and you're passing it to like a file resource below, and it's fine because then you're getting it by that.
But
this
where
is the edge case for us, I would almost just copy that method.
But where you're not, this is sort of our conventional API of how Chef Inc. right does coercing of strings that might be octals into octals.
Okay. I'll see if this solves my 4 written down use cases.
Yeah.
I was always able to solve 3 of them, but it like different 3 each time, depending on what I wrote. I wrote like 3 different helpers for this, and they were all like the 75% solution. All right. That's good to know. Thanks. Do we have anything else we kind of want to look at? I think we got into the point of stuff we had already looked at. Jason wants us to fix this PowerShell thing.
To be fair, I've worked around it now by writing hacky code that doesn't rely on Chef. It seemed like the easiest way to fix it.
I bet Mr. O'Neill probably also wants this fixed.
Which one are you talking about?
Perhaps. What is it?
It turns out that PowerShell is terrible. I don't know.
Do you want me to explain it quickly?
Yeah, you can just explain it probably better.
So PowerShell Gallery now seems to require TLS 1.2, but PowerShell on server 2016 or lower by default does not support TLS 1.2. It supports SLv3 up to TLS 1.1. So if you want to do PowerShell package, it goes bang.
But silently.
Yeah, because Chef isn't detecting it's gone bang. So
wow.
You think in Chef it's all working absolutely fine, but in truth it never managed to connect to the PowerShell gallery. But it did manage to connect to the part which said what version should be installed.
So there's a workaround here. Obviously, you can on your system set the registry key. We can't do that because we can't be modifying people's TLS settings. There's another hacky workaround where you can like basically force the .NET code to execute with allowing you to use 1.2. So we can have like a one-off execution of that code that goes out and checks PowerShell to be like, use 1.2. And sadly, our release engineering team basically did that for some code that we have because they were running into breaking changes with this exact problem. Like our 2012 R2 builders were not able to get to the PowerShell gallery to download something that's new. But this is a pretty crappy problem because it just silently fails. It's worse than a stack trace. Yeah. It's fun.
It's only about 5 hours of going through Microsoft code.
Yeah, so we'll fix this. This is a pretty high priority one, and that'll get Chef 15.
Yeah.
Hopefully 15.10.
The thing is, the registry keys, while we should be changing people's machines, if they can't support TLS 1.2 on their apps, they're going to be screwed anyway, shortly.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but that's kind of like,
yeah,
that's kind of their problem.
Oh yeah.
I got to make my app work. They can figure out how to get their apps to work. Maybe they're super happy with TLS. Crappy 1.0.
I mean, the problem is people have internal stuff that's on.
Yeah, Lamont nailed it there.
Yeah, I don't want to touch.
It's
I don't want
always
to touch how their own app works.
internal hardware crap that doesn't support TLS 1.2 because it's like 18 years old.
Yep. I've had so many of those, I've gone to just sticking HA proxies in front of them. that'll terminate 1.2, so that ticks PCI or whatever compliance I need to tick. Look, it's a 1.2 connection. Don't look behind it.
Glad that PCI is a useful standard.
The system under test includes the proxy in front of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are cheats. This is also like, again, why this stuff passes on the builders was because it failed, and our release engineering team was awesome and was like, oh, we can fix that. We'll just make this system support 1.2. When the real thing was like, wait, why is it failing?
Yeah, and
Like-
that PowerShell line is only in memory in that runtime as well. So
Yeah, we can fix this. We're gonna fix it. That was just one I wanted to call out because it's
That RSpec cert's going to expire.
yeah, somebody filed this. I was like, cool, thanks, man. You want to update it?
Oh, it expired. Why
Yeah,
are failures?
we probably ignore it.
Curious. Curious that we have no test failures. Can we just delete this? Is it not being used or anything?
just renew it for another 30 years and hope nobody is still there.
I mean, that's what I was going to do because it's just a test thing. So just bump it up to heat death of the universe.
Yeah, well, BTM and I were joking about this. We're like, what's like the biggest cert we can get here to just never have to deal with this again?
I'm sure you can go 100 years.
Sure, let's get 100 years then. Yeah, so that was one we got to fix, but I think that's mostly it, to be honest. We're also at time, unless anybody has anything they'd like to look at. No. All right. Well, thanks for coming. See y'all later.
Take care. Thanks.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.